No introduction needed any year, regardless of the records. It's Michigan, Ohio State, and but this year, throw the records in, and it's for the Big Ten Eastern Division Championship and a trip to Indianapolis. So extra motivation if there needs to be any. Justin Rowe joins us each and every week, but man, this is one you got to get especially charged up for, Justin. You can catch Justin's podcast, Blue by 90, and follow him on Twitter. Justin, how's it going?
Doing well, doing well. This is the one we've all been waiting for. That's for sure. It's been a fun season, and I don't know if we expected, Mark, when we first recorded at the beginning of the season, that this one would be for all marbles.
Yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be in the Big Ten. For people that have a few decades behind them, this is what you remember. This is what you grew up with. This is certainly what I grew up with. These were the two that mattered in the Big Ten and owned the conference. So whether it be for a Rose Bowl or a trip to the Big Ten championship game here in the last 10 years, this is, again, the way it feels right in this conference. We hope that J.J. McCarthy is going to bring a clean jersey to the game, that it's not got a bunch of cleat marks and prints on it.
Yeah, so we threw, if you go to the Blue by 90 Instagram page and Twitter as well, we posted a story, or we posted a video of an Ohio State player, Tyleik Williams, is that correct of his
Yes.
name? He defensive lineman, and he put on his Instagram story a video of him stomping on an amazing blue number 9 jersey of JJ McCarthy. And so the banter has already started, and then actually JJ McCarthy commented on the Instagram and said, "Inject this into my veins." So the back and forth, and it did not wait until Michigan and Ohio State took the field on Saturday for them to start the punches being thrown.
Yeah, there have been punches thrown in the past. David Boston, Charles Woodson, probably the most famous scene at the Big House. But here we go. In the modern age of social media, that's what you got.
Sometimes people only can do it on social media. You know what I mean?
Exactly. What are the odds that Tyleik Williams is going to get a hold of J.J. McCarthy on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm not so sure, but it's fun while it lasts here until Saturday for sure.
Well, Michigan practically matched Ohio State's explosiveness on offense with a impressive win against Maryland, and showed that Ohio State may not be the only team with star power and explosive speed potential on the field come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stats for the Big Ten offensive scoring for the whole year, and Ohio State's 1-2. Ohio State and Michigan are 1-2. I think you have to give props to Josh Gaddis for what he's been able to do and take that Michigan offense from good, nothing too special, to now they put points on the board. Which is something that we haven't seen them do in the past. I mean, obviously we have seen Ohio State do that, so it's not any surprise that they're number 1 in the conference and number 1 in the nation in terms of scoring offense. But I don't know. I want to, ask you as well. I don't know if this is going to be a shootout, but I think it could be a high-scoring game. Michigan's defense will probably be one of the best defenses that Ohio State goes up against all year, led by Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo. And I think, Mike McDonald has done a great job this year of throwing different packages out there for Michigan's defense. It hasn't been the old Don Brown where you blitz, and that's about it. So it'll be very interesting to see what Mike McDonald will do against Ohio State instead of just, being stubborn and doing the same thing over and over. Will he adapt? Will he make adjustments? What's he going to throw at C.J. Stroud in that offense?
Yeah, if you're looking at what the scoring range could be for this game, you look at Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. I would think those to be the 3 best defenses that Ohio State has played. I think they're all first-tier defenses with only a handful of defenses better in the nation. So they're in that collection of top 10 defenses in the nation. And Ohio State moved the ball against all three of them, but they didn't just annihilate them like they did Michigan State and Purdue the last 2 weeks. They were held in check. The defenses tackled in space. They were tough against the run. They were tough in the red zone in particular. And that limited Ohio State to, decent scoring efforts, but again, not ridiculous 49 points in one half. So that would certainly be Michigan's formula or part of it.
Yeah, I think every Michigan fan watching the Ohio State Michigan State game last week was like, "Oh shit, how are we going to stop that?" Right? And so, I mean, it's a valid question. I think that especially a lot of people forgot about what they did in that Purdue game because of what happened last week, but they've done it back-to-back weeks now, essentially. But I think what you alluded to for the defenses that did hold them in check was keeping them out of the end zone. They didn't necessarily, they put up the same amount of yardage and they felt like they had the same amount of explosive plays, but once you get down into the red zone, can you hold them to a field goal, 2 or 3 times instead of letting them score? That's what Michigan's going to have to do to stop that Ohio State offense from putting up 50 points. I really do think that. The other part of the formula, I think, that Mike McDonald's going to roll out there is what's worked for them all year. Let Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo pin their ears back and get to C.J. Stroud. The one thing we haven't seen Stroud do since about week 3 is throw the ball under pressure, right? And so you watch the game against Michigan State on Saturday, and he could have baked a cake in the backfield. And so if you let him do that, he's going to do that exact same thing. Those unbelievable receivers are going to run all over you. But I don't know if C.J. Stroud is a great quarterback when he is under pressure. He struggled early in the season when some teams were getting to him. So I could see that happening if Michigan's able to get to Stroud, especially early in the game. Then he gets uncomfortable. All of a sudden, those guys don't look as wide open as they are used to being.
Yes. I'll put Oregon and Penn State possibly in Michigan's class defensively, but in regards to defensive front and pass rush from those two ends, this is going to be the best Ohio State's seen. I don't think it's an argument, but Ohio State has figured out its offensive line structure and the best combinations and pass blocked much better the last 2 weeks against decent defenses in Michigan State and Purdue. And again, just for any Michigan fans that need a wake-up call on that, and I don't think they do, but it's just astonishing when you let it soak in what this Ohio State offense did the last 2 weeks, considering 49-0 against a good team and 500 yards in the first half of a game is just astonishing. But Michigan State,
and it wasn't close either. It was. I don't think they had a single play. What did he have? Two incompletions, and it was just like every single time it looked like they were playing a JV team. It was really incredible. So as well as I think your point, what you're trying to get at is as well as Michigan's defense has played against Penn State, how they got to Clifford against a lot of these teams. Excuse me, it's not going to be the same. I think the big thing too is going to be when Ohio State does eventually get their big play. It could be the first drive. It could be the fourth. I don't know. They're going to get a few of them, probably more than the Michigan wants to have. Michigan's defense has to be able to pick themselves up off the field and still go back out there and come back the next drive. What we've seen from Michigan in the past is they get down 14 or Ohio State scores a few times in a row. All of a sudden it feels like, oh my God, how do you even stop this? You have to play all 4 quarters and make sure that you keep coming at them, keep coming at them, keep coming at them.
Now, what could be the ace in the hole for Michigan on both sides of the ball with impact would be what I wanted to see Ohio State tested last week, and we didn't get a chance to see based on Kenneth Walker's sore ankle, only getting 6 carries, I think partially because of the ankle, partially because it was 21-0 like that. But Ohio State limited him, but 6 carries. Who knows what would have happened? So insert Hassan Haskins for Kenneth Walker. And if he's in that same 31 carry type mode and type of ball game, probably the score is going to be a couple touchdowns higher than the Penn State game, but still in that mode where he's doing double work. He's keeping Michigan on the field, wearing down an Ohio State defense in the fourth quarter, and he's keeping C.J. Stroud on the sideline.
And that's got to be the key for Michigan's offense. Run that clock. And I think it's going to be this really tough thing for Josh Gaddis where you don't want to be too conservative because we've watched them be too conservative and then that offense goes nowhere. So you have to keep the playbook open, but at the same time, you're trying to run clock all day long and keep that Ohio State offense off the field. That would be my worry for Josh Gaddis is Jim saying, hey, let's get a 9-minute drive. And then Josh Gaddis, when he wants to get a 9-minute drive, is he tries to run Hassan Haskins up the middle 3 times and goes 3 and out. So that would be my worry about Michigan's offense. But if they can have that balance of milk clock plus keep the playbook open, be creative, and not be too conservative, then I do think that all of a sudden this game gets changed a lot. If you let Ohio State on the field with their offense, over and over, especially, I could see it happening where Ohio State goes out, scores, and then all of a sudden Michigan's offense, which has had some slow starts this year, if they go 3 and out and then Ohio State scores again, it could get out of hand early. But if Michigan's able to milk some clock, even just not that they have to score, right away, but just keep that defense on the field, get some momentum going, then they can, make this a game even, past the halftime, I guess, past halftime.
Are there any players on either side of the ball that maybe not a lot of people know about outside of Michigan circles that may need to step up? This series is littered with guys that kind of came out of nowhere and became legends based on one performance.
Yeah, and I think what's unique about Michigan's offense specifically is that it's been a new guy kind of every week that has been the standout guy. Obviously, Cade McNamara has been the consistent guy. Hassan Haskins has been the consistent guy. Even Blake Corum, although he had been injured, I do believe that there will be a plethora of guys. One guy that showed out last week that I think could be an X factor is Donovan Edwards. If he is able to line up in the slot position, and now that's a mismatch in a lot of different ways. If he can, come out of the backfield into the slot, go from the slot back into the backfield, all of a sudden you're being creative with what you can do. He could be a guy that has that game. I also think Andrell Anthony can be that guy. He's been, he's a freshman, number one. The moments the story kind of writes itself a little bit for him there. But he's got that elite speed and the size that he could go up against this Ohio State secondary. So those guys I think could be the guys on defense. And then, one of the guys on the guys on offense, one of the guys on defense that I think isn't the top dog, but Junior Colson has been a linebacker for Michigan, and I think his duo of Nikhai Green as well. Josh Ross has been the senior linebacker for them, but Josh Ross is a guy who, if they keep him in, Ohio State will go at him and run that crossing route and get him in a bad matchup with a fast wide receiver. Nikhai Green and Junior Colson are much more athletic. So I could see both of them on the defensive side getting a lot more play than they're used to because Michigan needs to work in, these fast linebackers to cover some of the receivers.
In mentioning Donovan Edwards, as a side note, Edwards and Travion Henderson were the top 2 rated running backs coming out of high school in this most recent recruiting class. So they're already making an impact at each school and could in this game. Got Justin Rowe on the line from Blue by 90 podcast. Join him. This would be the week to get started. So it's always the week to get started listening to his podcast, but this would be a good one right here as we head toward the game and beyond. We'll see which path each school takes past this. There's a Big Ten championship game to be played, and then bowl games and college football playoff appearances from there. So you brought up the possibility of an Ohio State snowball of 2 scores with a 3 and out in between from Michigan. I'll flip it around to say, with the Michigan psyche, I don't want to say it's fragile because I don't know. I'm the last person on earth that makes those kind of statements, like I'm guessing what a team's psyche is. But we know what the recent history's been, so there could be a shred of doubt there that could be amplified by a rough start. On the flip side, in the big house, with a crowd that has to be hopeful, a crowd that has to be, okay, we've got a better team than what we expected coming into this game a few months ago. And if something positive happens, or a few things positive happen early, where it could go from, it's always going to be a certain level of vibe for the Ohio State game, of course, in that stadium, but it could just become crazy, raucous, and kind of get on Ohio State early.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you look at, first of all, if you look at Ohio State's schedule this year, really the only environment they probably struggled with was at Nebraska, I would say.
Yeah.
Every other big game they've had at home. And so there's that for Ohio State may not be quite ready for it or not used to it. They'll probably be ready for it, but maybe just not used to it as in they're playing like in that environment week after week. The other part is exactly what you said. The hopefulness, and also this is the first time since 2003 that this game, when it's been played for all the marbles, has been played in Ann Arbor. Especially every time under Harbaugh, it's always been played in Columbus, I believe, when everything's on the line. So that's where I'm curious and excited for the Michigan side for the Michigan fans to experience that. Most of the time when Ohio State has come to Ann Arbor lately, it's been over for Michigan. Sell their tickets. It ends up as a half sea of red. Go on and on and on. Now, is it going to be different? They'll have the maize pom-poms. They're trying to do a maize out, even though everyone's going to wear parkas anyway, so it's going to be tough. But I think it is going to be a different environment. And, that's what I think. A couple things. To your point, if Michigan's able to get some things going early, some big plays, a sack, all of a sudden then maybe Ohio State's back on their heels. The other part of that is even when Ohio State, or if Ohio State does go up 14-0, the crowd will help them get back into it. In the situations that, in 2016 and 2018, when Ohio State did go up in those games, all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, I'm in the sea of red and we're, getting our ass kicked and blah, blah, blah. It's hard to come back from that. If you have the crowd on your side, it's a lot easier for them to stay in it throughout 4 quarters. So I definitely think that's a big deal. And I think, when you think about the senior leaders from Josh Ross, as I said, Brad Hawkins on the defense, Andrew Vistardis on the at center, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously. These guys, it's their last game in the big house. It's their last game in Ann Arbor. What more can they want than to be that one team that finally beats Ohio State? And, you think about Aiden Hutchinson and the passion that he's had all year to turn this thing around, change the culture. Him and Jim Harbaugh have been like neck and neck, just going, this is it. We've got to do this. This feels like for Michigan, this whole year, the whole turnaround, everything since last year has been leading up to this exact moment on Saturday.
Justin Rowe, Blue by 90 podcast. Join him right there. He joins us each week to talk Michigan football, and we appreciate it. Justin, do you make predictions on the Michigan games?
I usually don't. I usually do not make predictions.
Because my next question was going to be: have you picked Michigan to lose a game this year? I was just curious.
I in official predictions, I haven't given official predictions, but let's say me talking to buddies, I don't think I've predicted Michigan to lose this year, because the only one that I think that I would have predicted them to lose was at Michigan State, but I thought that they were the better team going into that. I do think that they were the better team coming out of it, actually, too,
Yeah.
and should have won the game. This one, this would be the one game on the schedule that I'd say, if I was an unbiased bettor, I would probably take Ohio State -8 or whatever it's at right now. I think you have to bet that side until Jim Harbaugh and Michigan can prove otherwise. But with that being said, I will say this year seems like their best chance at it, because they've got the team, but they've also got the attitude. So those are the two things that I think that that latter half has been missing for a little bit. And so I think that could be the one thing that pushes Michigan over the edge here.
Yeah, I think I'm along the same lines, that if both teams bring their A games, I think Ohio State wins, or if both teams bring their C game, whatever level you want to put it at, that Michigan has to bring a better brand of their football to the table. And that's not uncommon. There are dozens of games across college football where that happens every week. So it's not a puncher's chance. I think it's much better than that for Michigan. I do think that they're legitimately one of the 5 or 6 best teams in college football. There may just prove to be some difference between a top 5 or 6 team and a top 2 team. We shall see.
Absolutely.
We shall see. It should be fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, Justin, we appreciate it. You enjoy the game. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Mark.